You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day. Or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help.
The FHN network is sponsored in part by Hoddle Services. If you're looking for a disc jockey, karaoke host, video jockey to videographer, our company can help. With over 20 years of experience, we would be happy to help with your special event within Ontario, Canada. You can contact us at 226-988-2895 or visit us at our website at hoddleservices.vpweb.ca. That's HODDLE Services. We look forward to hearing from you and helping with your special event.
Yes, that's right. It's Lock It Up Sportstalk, Fine Subtle Network, and ASTV. And it's the NHL playoffs, which means there are going to be teams locking it up. That's the name of the show. We do this every week, Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Logan Lockhart again, and here we go. NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs. You have series down south of the border with, a lot of fans down there. And then you compare it to two series up north of the border, and there's no people in the building. So one of those series is now ended, and you saw Winnipeg. They got the brooms out. They sweep Edmonton in a shocking turn of events, because a lot of people would not pick a sweep. I picked I picked Winnipeg to win, but not in a sweep. I thought this series would go the distance, even though it's a sweep. The games were a lot closer than maybe it will say on paper when we get down to it. And, really, if you look at it, that game yesterday, triple overtime, but Edmonton dominated, in particular, double overtime. It was domination in favor of the Oilers, but they just couldn't break through. And you know what? After you blow a 4-1 lead in Game 3 and Winnipeg wins, that's when you know that it's just not Edmonton's year. It's just not, right? So they couldn't break through. They couldn't get over the hump. It took McDavid until Game 4 to score his first goal, right? And credit to Connor Hellebuck. Tremendous. Really tremendous. Mike Smith was great last night too. But you know what? When you're going to put the goalie battle up against each other, Smith, Hellebuck, I'm taking Hellebuck, right? And I think Winnipeg's going to be a really tough team to beat. They're now through, so now they wait on Montreal or Toronto. And Montreal, after winning Game 1, they lose 2 in a row. Game 4 tonight, back in Montreal, in Montreal again. And, in terms of the Canadians right now, this is must win. I mean, it really is. If you think about it from Montreal's perspective, I mean, you get Game 1 on the road, quote unquote, and you're in brilliant position here because at the very least, you're guaranteed to be tied 1-1 going back home. The problem is, and this is how I started the show, it's not a normal playoff series when you don't have anyone in the building. I mean, if this was a normal series in a normal year, Montreal would have been over the moon right now. They would have had such an advantage because they would have gone back home yesterday, Game 3. There would have been just a rocking house. They would have had the advantage, but there's no one there. So it's very easy for Toronto, and it becomes a must-win situation for Montreal tonight. And that's the thing, when you have a team like Toronto, who on paper, they can go up with anyone in this league, I think. And Montreal, they got to kind of be a pesky team. Win a game on a goal like Byron's, just a good, gritty effort by Byron and then a beautiful finish. They're going to need moments like that. And you see Caulfield make his playoff debut yesterday. I thought he looked good. I think Ducharme, his confidence in Caulfield is going to go up. There's no doubt about it. It went up as that game went on. I would just keep this in mind. Is his ice time going to be desirable to what people in Montreal want? Because at the end of the day, this is a Toronto team, very strong. And to have Caulfield on the ice, could he be a liability, especially defensively? That's what you got to be thinking. I wouldn't expect him to be played like a Gallagher would. Absolutely not. There's no way. But at the same time, you can see Ducharme's confidence. It's increasing in Caulfield. And as we go on in this series, I think it will. But the problem is it might be too little too late because here come the Leafs, right? Close game yesterday, though. Close game. Now, let's move on south of the border and the Islanders. So, listen, they get dominated. This is like Winnipeg, Edmonton, right? And this is what I was thinking when I was watching New Oilers Jets. I'm going, well, I just saw this with the Islanders and Penguins. So the Islanders, they get dominated by the Pens yesterday. Just dominated. Ilya Sorokin in net for the Islanders stands on his head. He ends up making 48 saves. The game goes to double overtime. And here they go. It's the Islanders, the pesky Islanders, who just find ways to win. And good teams find ways to win, okay? Let's not get that twisted. And the Islanders are a good team. But it's going to be so frustrating from Pittsburgh's point of view that they can't break through and shut the door here on the Islanders at home. They just can't, right? And it's Tristan Jarry, who's the scapegoat today, makes just a brutal mistake in double overtime, a giveaway, and then there's Josh Bailey walking in. He's all alone over the glove. The weakness of Jarry in this series, which they've documented many times on the broadcast, how the Islanders, you just go over his glove on Tristan Jarry. But it was a mistake. It cost the Pens the game. They should have won the game, Pittsburgh. But again, good teams find a way to win. The Islanders are a good team. I picked the Islanders to win this series. And a lot of that was just off having a hunch about them finding ways to win. I trust them to win a series in this Barry Trotz era. I just do with the Islanders, and that's why I picked them. But with Pittsburgh, this is what I was saying about Toronto-Montreal with the no fans element. Well, in this series, it's completely different because there's fans in the building, and now the Islanders building, which may be the most rocking in the league anyway, now Pittsburgh's got to go there for Game 6, and the dynamic's completely different, right? I mean, imagine if there were no fans in Nassau Coliseum for the Pens to play that elimination game, right? It would just be different. But now they got to go in. The place is going to be rocking. So what I'm saying is that there's two different series going on, right? There's the Jets and Oilers, which is over now, but that was one, Leafs, Habs, and then the rest of the league. They're playing a different type of series. It's about momentum shifts. It's about a lot of things, but the fans make a big deal, right? This isn't the bubble anymore, right? We can now compare just within 5 seconds. You can watch one game, watch another, compare side by side, and the difference is evident right away. Okay, now, Minnesota stayed alive yesterday. In Minnesota, this is, after Game 1, which again was a tough game. They stole that on the road. They've kind of been in a position where Vegas has taken over, but here comes Minnesota. Okay, Kirill Kaprizov scores his first playoff goal yesterday, and Minnesota now goes home for Game 6. They're down 3-2, so if they can force a Game 7 again with the fans there, who knows? Maybe it can happen. Vegas is a really strong team, and so is Colorado, who swept. So we're at a point now in the first round where we can kind of, we definitely know some of our second round teams, but we can definitely project where we're going here in a lot of cases. I mean, Winnipeg is through. So Winnipeg, Toronto, let's say. And again, I'm throwing it out there. I'm just projecting. Right now, Colorado's through. So what are we looking at there? Are we looking at Colorado Vegas, which has been the most talked about matchup in that division throughout the regular season? Two really strong teams, and two of the best teams. If you were to make a top 20 to 30 list in the NHL, who are your top two teams? It might be Colorado and Vegas, right? But on another note, Florida stays alive as well. And now Florida's got to go to Tampa for Game 6. So we got a lot of Game 6s going on in the NHL. And then tonight, if you're watching this live, there's two games, only two. And it is Toronto-Montreal. And then, of course, the fantastic series. If you haven't been watching this series, you got to start tonight. It's Game 5, Predators-Hurricanes. Again, I'm going to bring up the fans again, but this is Exhibit A. First two games in Carolina, it was way too difficult for Nashville. It was just too difficult. They weren't going to win. There you go. Carolina, 2-0 series lead. Games 3 and 4, Nashville. Way too difficult for Carolina. Way too difficult. Overtime games. Okay, it's tough. And Nashville wins, and we're tied at 2. That's Exhibit A. So those are the two games that are tonight. And before I move on, I'm going to move on to the World Championships in just a moment here. But when it comes to the Leafs, the Leafs, the depth is really showing at this point. And when you really think about it, when there were, all these talks about why did they acquire Nick Foligno? And, Riley Nash is coming in now. It's for times like these when you have an injury or two and you see a horrific injury to John Tavares. And you have now Nick Foligno, who's out for a bit, which is the irony in all this. But the depth is there for Toronto. And when it comes to tonight's game, I think it's going to prove a little more. This is the kind of series that you would just assume it's going to go back and forth. Montreal would win tonight. But it's hard to just say that about a Leafs team. Again, there's no fans in Montreal. The Leafs can walk in there, no problem, right? And that's just what may happen. But it's tough in a series like this, especially of seeing Montreal, how competitive they've been with Toronto, even in Game 2 when Toronto won 5-1, right? It wasn't that much of a lopsided game, as the score would tell you. It was a very close game. That could have gone either way at some point, right? So Montreal's made this a very, very competitive series, and I think it would be a mistake for any Leafs fans out there to look ahead to Winnipeg and say, okay, Winnipeg's the opponent for next. No, you got to take care of Montreal first. You just do. Let's move on to what's going on in Latvia with the 2021 World Hockey Championships. And, usually this wouldn't be too, it wouldn't be at the top of the agenda at this time of year. We'd be talking about the playoffs, which we just did. And we'd continue that playoff talk. But, when you've had a tournament so wild as it's been, it really has been just crazy. And it starts with Canada's performance. Canada's 0-3, and they have not even gotten a point out of any of the losses. So they're 3 regulation losses. And here's the thing. There's no relegation this year, right? It's a COVID year, just like the World Juniors back in the new year there. How there was no relegation. There's no relegation here, but the jokes were going around saying, Canada, they might, they would be in that conversation for being relegated because they don't have a point yet. So they're at the bottom with Italy, tied at the bottom of Group B for being the teams of no points and the teams that haven't done anything. And Canada loses their first game to Latvia, 2-0. Then they play the States. They lose 5-1. And then yesterday they lose to Germany 3-1. So this is, and look, we're not talking about the best on best here. Everyone has to deal with not having their best players. It's not just Canada, though. So I don't think that's a valid excuse. Every traditional hockey powerhouse in this tournament has to deal with not having their best. It's just how it is. Right, so you got to make up with what you have. Canada's, Gerard Gallant's behind the bench. I'm surprised. I thought that he would kind of bring this team together in a way. Hasn't happened. Roberto Luongo's the GM. It's not looking good right now. It just isn't. And Canada, they still have to play Norway. They still have to play Kazakhstan. And they still have to play Finland and Italy. And that's it, right? So, this is not as easy as it sounds. Now, with Canada, they can turn it around in 2 seconds, right? We know they can. But at the same time, when you look the way you have and you can't put the puck in the net, they spent half the game on the power play, just about, against Germany. They couldn't score. So it just goes to tell you that this tournament, it's a little wacky. And if you're looking for a fresh perspective on some hockey and some international hockey, I'd watch this tournament right away. Right away. There's games on right now, actually, as we speak. So really, when it comes down to it, this has been a wild tournament. You have teams like Belarus getting wins and teams like Norway getting wins. And it's just been one of those tournaments where it's gone down to the wire in a lot of cases. Great Britain, a team that lost 2-1, going right down to the wire. So a lot of different things happening at these World Championships. And before we wrap up today, we'll do the picks of the day. And it is going to start with the National Hockey League, the aforementioned games that are on today. And you got Toronto, Montreal, you got Nashville, and Carolina. I think Carolina's going to take this at home. These are 2 games that just happened. They both ended in overtime. Carolina at home, absolutely. I think you'd be foolish not to go in that direction. They are a better team than Nashville. When Nashville is tying the series now at 2, it's a bit of a surprise. All due respect to the Predators, but I'm really high on Carolina, and a lot of people are too. A lot of people in the hockey world, you can ask a lot of people about what they think of the Hurricanes, and some will tell you that they're the best team in the traditional Eastern Conference right now. And that's how good they look. They're a well-built team. They're built for the playoffs. It's a matter of time before they get over the hump. I like Carolina to go really far this year. They're going to have to beat Nashville first, though, but that's the beauty of the playoffs, right? Nothing's given. Nothing's given to you. You can play anyone in a series. Look at this. We're tied 2-2. Toronto, Montreal. Look, this series it could have that potential to be one that kind of gets out of hand here. And I again, no disrespect to Montreal, but you would think logically that Montreal would win this game and tie it. It's Toronto-Montreal rivalry. I think Toronto's going to win. And I think that Campbell showed me something last night that I haven't seen, since his very hot run to start the season. And I know that he's been good. He's been good in this series, and he was pretty good down the stretch for Toronto. But he showed me something last night. He made some big saves, some saves that had a high degree of difficulty. Campbell, to me, looked like the guy in net that the Leafs were banking on when they named him the starter. That's it. And now, all of a sudden, I think we have a great goalie battle on our hands because Carey Price looks just as good. This is playoff Price. With that element involved in the series, it's very difficult just to count out Montreal at all, right? But that's the way it is. So I like Toronto based on what I saw out of Jack Campbell. And, I think one of these times we're going to see some brilliance out of Matthews. Matthews was zipping around the ice yesterday. It's only a matter of time before something substantial happens when the puck's on his stick. It's bound to happen, right? And it's going to be in one of these games. The problem is if playoff Price is on his game, then the Leafs might be in trouble, just like we saw in Game 1. But either way, enjoy the hockey, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Lock It Up Sportstalk Stanley Cup Playoff Edition. We'll do this for the next few weeks as we go through the playoffs. There you go. Until next week, Fines Huddle Network. And on ASTV, it's Lock It Up Sports Talk, and this is Logan Lockhart signing off.
Make sure to check out our past shows from previous weeks on our YouTube, Facebook, or Mixcloud channels. You can always catch up on podcasts while checking out our FHN Network channel on YouTube or Facebook. Or you can listen to an audio copy of our past shows on our Mixcloud channel at FHN_Network. The FHN Network, the future of entertainment.